LaxFactor podcast. What is up, lacrosse fans? You are watching the 111th episode of the LaxFactor Lacrosse podcast. I'm your host, Ted Hoost, and today we're going to talk about, of all things, Matt Gaudet and the Epple situation here. Epple getting revenge for someone who wasn't even on his team, just kind of trying to show the rookie what's up. And we're also going to talk about last night's game between the Woods and the Chaos. Before I get into it, as always, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this video anywhere that you can, and you can always go to LaxFactor.com, watch our videos there, get yourself some swag, hats, t-shirts, support the podcast that way. At least go check it out, LaxFactor.com. So let's get into it. First, the Matt Gaudet thing. I talked about it a little bit in the last podcast, but when I talked about it at that point, we didn't have the retaliation out of Epple in the following game. So what we end up seeing, we see one night Gaudet talking a bunch of hot trash to the Chaos, to Blaze Riorden more specifically. He had the cackle going on. All in all, for a rookie to do that, especially when the rookie's mic'd up in his first, I think by then, at that point, I'm not sure if it was his first game or his second game, but either way, mic'd up. It was disrespectful if I'm talking from a coach's perspective or an old curmudgeon's perspective. As a player, and as a player who talked a lot of trash, as a coach who didn't mind my players talking trash in the right scenarios, I was okay with it to a degree, but admittedly it got annoying. And I wasn't sure, because he didn't get his head taken off in that game, I wasn't sure if maybe this was just funny to all these guys because maybe they're pals and it was okay to have this dude because if it was your buddy and he was pulling all that shit, you'd think it was funny. You really would. And then like if him and Blaze were cool, you'd think that was funny. So I don't know if there was something done on the Chaos side. I know that I think it was the Chaos that he got traded from. And I know maybe Fields, someone said something about Fields maybe popping off first. I don't remember. If Connor Fields pops off to you first, eat it, because you ain't Connor Fields and you are never going to be Connor Fields. That's one thing. When you got vets that are all-time greats like Connor Fields is, you kind of let them say things. Maybe they brought it out of him a little bit. But either way, we all agree. There were moments where it was funny in that first game, and then there was moments where it was like, that kind of makes me cringe a little bit. But even if you didn't care, I think all of us agree, none of us in that game had the Chaos retaliated in the way that Epple did. I think it's a little bit more accepted by everybody. I've actually been surprised at the number of pansy asses out there that think that what Epple did is just absolutely atrocious and horrible. And yes, it was uncalled for, but there is a certain level of adulthood here that you have to learn. You're going to pop off at the mouth. You are going to run the risk of getting popped back. Now, I think one of the things that I said was if you put dickhead out into the world, you're going to get dickhead back. And I think that a lot of people that I'm seeing in Twitterverse think that Epple is a dickhead. And they're basing that on this play, but more they're basing that on this play mixed with a couple of the hits last year. He had a nasty hit on Connor Fields last year. I think he's the one that busted up Schreiber's shoulder. So he's an aggressive defender that beats people up and sometimes maybe takes it too far on behalf of his team trying to enforce. Now, in the case with Gaudet, where Epple, the first hit that Epple put on Gaudet, and I believe he was involved earlier in the game when they had the little scuffle also, it was very apparent to me that the officials were letting them give him the business a little more than they normally would. So I think what we're seeing here is in life, in society, there's certain things men can and can't say to each other. And men always understand that we are always dealing with the threat of violence. That's why we're far more cordial overall in terms of our social interactions with each other than women are. Women practice social sabotage, men practice in fighting. So where women have it out, they're going to use that tongue and they're going to lash each other with their tongues far worse than men will, because by the time men get to escalating things with their tongues, they're ready to fight. So we're far less to engage in that type of behavior simply because we have that threat of violence always looming over us. Not that women don't too. I mean, there's some pretty aggressive women out there, but on average, that's true. On average, men fight, women talk trash, and it's just how we're built to a degree. You can't front on a million years worth of evolution. So I think that in this world here, even though what happened was undesirable in many people's eyes, even though what Epple did was viewed as totally egregious, and some people were calling for, I know Queener was calling for like a 3-game suspension. I don't know if that's what he wanted or if that's just what he assumed they were going to give him. And I wouldn't have been surprised if the league came out and gave him a 2 or 3 game suspension. For the league to only give him a 2-minute penalty in the game, non-releasable, and then to also only give him a 1-game suspension after that, I feel like that's a legitimate case of a bunch of alphas saying, hey, young gun, shut up. Don't act like that. We're not going to condone that. And where we do have people, kind of be the imperfect tools that are going to end up hacking you up because you're talking hot trash in a way that is now crossed the line in the eyes of the players in the league, we're not going to punish that person as severely as maybe everybody else thinks that we should. So I think that a lot of people are like, how could they not have given him a 2 or 3 game suspension? I think it's a message that this is how it works. You pop off at the mouth. You pop off at the mouth as badly as he was, you are going to get slapped, and no one's going to be surprised. Like all these people that are acting surprised that this went down, you guys are not well socialized, apparently, because we all learned in middle school there are things that you can say to your peers and get away with it, and there are things that you can't. And Gaudet definitely went over the line into the area of, hey, this is still funny. I was still laughing as he was doing it. The cackle was super annoying, but the trash talk I was laughing at, even though I fully accepted that, he's going to get his head taken off. I was happy to see a guy like Curtis Dixon, a wily vet and tough as nails. I was glad to see him come out and speak out against it the day after it happened. Now, the other part of this is Epple's not even on his team. That's why I feel like, obviously, you could tell there was a concerted effort on behalf of that defense to get him. And every chance they got to get close to him and hit him, they did, all the way up to the Epple thing. And a couple of things after that. I was pleased to see his team come to his defense in that scenario. The first scuffle, they didn't come to his defense as much. The second scuffle, they definitely came to his defense. So I was glad to see Gaudet's teammates come to his defense and help him out. I was glad to see Epple's teammates come through because he kind of knew that these guys were all on the same page. Hey, we're just going to headhunt this guy. And like I said, I'm not saying it's right. And what Epple did could have injured him. Like he even that initial hit where he kind of came up and he got him high a little bit in the initial hit. They didn't call that. But then that 2 or 3 cross checks to the head when the dude's on the ground, that I can't get behind. I understand it. And I'm not going to pretend that it wasn't maybe even necessary to a degree. But in hindsight, it's easy to say, probably shouldn't have done that, Epple. That was pretty brutal. And then Epple has that history of jacking people up. So obviously people are a little sensitive to that. Now, that's it, though. In the end, I hope it's over. I hope Gaudet learned his lesson, and I hope we don't see that level of chirping out of him, although I will be sad if we don't see any more chirping out of him. But I think that that's a message. And he may even have to eat some shit for a couple more games here because every defense may want to give him the business a little bit to let him know we're not going to tolerate that the way the Chaos did. And I will love to see a rematch and have the Chaos get another chance to light him up a little bit. Just to see what they would do the next time they face each other. So I hope that rematch does happen. So in last night's game, we've got the Redwoods and the Chaos. Pretty good game going back and forth. They had the score wrong here on the first page. So it goes into OT. Early on, and one thing that was very clear from the beginning, defense, they're playing really tough defense here, and they've been playing really tough defense. I think that even though these guys are pros and you figure out you put these dudes on any size field, any situation with any rules, they're going to be able to rock this out. I feel like last year the pace was much more frantic up and down the field. Maybe offensively they're trying to pace themselves and things are a little slowed down because of how they're playing back to back to back to back. That could be playing, or our defenses and goalies just adjusting to the space better and playing better team defense, because it does look like we're seeing a little bit more defense out of teams. The goalies too. Both Riorden and Troutner Jr. both played incredible throughout this game. And really the only reason the Chaos are even in this game is because over the fourth quarter, Blaze Riorden kind of stood on his head a little bit. I don't know. I wouldn't call it standing on his head, but he had a couple of very key saves at key moments in the fourth quarter to stop the Redwoods from pulling away and to allow the Chaos to chip back in. So the Chaos outscored the Redwoods 4-2 over the fourth quarter, and they needed that to get this game back to tied. So that was pretty big. Um, Shooting percentage wise, guys are shooting terrible. I mean, overall in this game, shooting percentage was 18%. Shot on goal percentage was 21 and 30. So the Chaos were 18% shooting percentage, Redwoods 14%. So I'd like to see that pick up. That may tie into some of the offensive problems, but that could also be tied to good defense. Defenders getting a stick on the hands of a dodging midfielder that's getting ready to rip one, getting on the hands of attackmen as they're ready to spot up. So that was good. Offensively, Curtis Dixon's a beast. He goes 3-1. Josh Byrne 2-2. Troy Ray. And Troy Ray's goal at the end. Fourth quarter, Chaos down by 2. I have never been a big fan of the 2-point shot in the MLL, and then I wasn't a big fan of the 2-point shot when they brought it to the PLL. But Troy Ray's 2-pointer with about, what was it? I think about a minute 27 or something like that left in the fourth quarter. They're down by 2. He sticks a 1-pointer. They're down by 1 with a minute and a half left. The game's probably still over. Because of that 2-point shot, he rips that from outside the box. Great feed by Dixon. Dixon saw him from the wing, threw it across field. Ray wanted it. You can tell Ray's like, yo, give it to me, give it to me. And then beautiful shot. Ray, righty stick. He brings that stick all the way up and then drops that ball down into the bottom right corner, opposite of where his stick was. So it was a beautiful shot from deep, but without that 2-point shot, we don't have overtime in this game. So that does make it a little bit more exciting when teams are trying to play catch up. The game's never fully out of reach. If you're within 4 goals, even in under 2 minutes or 3 minutes left, 4 goals in the college game with 3 minutes left, not looking too good. Unless you're, or let's say 3 goals with a minute and a half left, not looking too good, unless you're Syracuse and Cornell, unless you're Syracuse playing Cornell in the national championship in, 2009 or whenever that was. But yeah, 4 goals isn't that big of a deficit to come back from when you have this 2-point shot and every team has beasts that can just let it rip, especially with the Poles in transition. They're exceptionally dangerous. Fields was quiet. He was just had 1 goal in the game. Was all. So once again, though, I'd say that kind of leads into these players playing slightly better defensive lacrosse. Myles Jones, he ends up with a goal and 2 assists, and he assisted on the game winner to Ryder Garnsey in overtime. Overtime, once again, couple of goalie saves here and there, but the Redwoods got the ball back after a shot off the pipe, or maybe it was a save by Riorden. And then Myles Jones dodging from out top, sees Garnsey from behind. Garnsey catches it, 2 steps up, sticks pretty much a 1-on-1 for the game winner. Garnsey, he ends up, it's hard to read these stats the way they do this. Garnsey ends up 2-0. Myles Jones ends up 1-2. Joe Walters stuck a key goal late. Sergio Perkovic hit another 2-pointer. And Perkovic's 2-pointer was beautiful. That 2-pointer that Perkovic stuck was a bouncer. So he's big right-handed cannon from out top, bounces it, hits the ground, and then goes up to the upper left corner. Not fully corner, but like a good section of the corner up there that he stuck that. So that was a sick 2-point bounce shot. Peterson still scores a goal, but and one thing that was important for the Redwoods is in a game where the goalies are playing hot and the defenses are playing well and the defense is contesting everything, transition becomes more important. Transition's already important on this shortened field, especially with the defenders being able to handle their sticks as well as they can. But for the Redwoods to get that flat break that they run working so well, where they kind of bring Garnsey and what's his name? I'm drawing a blank, so I'm just going to move on. Where they get the attackman and Peterson's on the right side. Garnsey, I think, is the one who typically plays that bottom left finisher, and Kavanaugh maybe is the one up on the wing. I'm not sure, but they end up flattening out and go 3 across as the middies and the poles are coming down, and that gives the middies and the poles a shot to get a good look, especially if there's nobody, if they've just got a guy trailing and nobody in front of them, and it makes it harder for the defense to decide who's stopping ball. But the Redwoods had that flat break working, and that was really the key to this game for them overall. What else did we want to say? I talked about the only reason that the Chaos even had a chance to get back into it was because of Riorden. We talked about the 2-pointer. And Tim Troutner Jr. Robbed Dixon and the Woods. Wait, what am I talking about? Yeah, I don't even know. We're at the end of this, guys. I had one more point, and it is literally gibberish. If I read you the note that I wrote, it says, let's see if I read the note, if it actually makes any sense at all. Troutner Jr. robbed Dixon, and the Woods got one in. Oh, okay. So I think that was what happened. I think Troutner made a save in overtime on one end. Ball goes back up the other side. No, I think Riorden ended up having a save, and then that save by Troutner on the one end is what led to the game-winning goal in overtime on the other. So goalie play has been excellent. Let's look at some stats here and try to see what we have. Players, let's see what we have here for some stats. After all these games, because now we'll just kind of go, hey, here's my overview so far. We're 3 to 5 games in, or 3 to 4 games in for each team. Maybe we're only 2 or 3 games in for each team. Amat right now at the top of the list for points. He's got 8 points overall. Rob Pennell right behind him with 7, and Curtis Dixon right behind them with 7. Kieran McCardle also 7. Jordan Wolf, who's been filthy, he's got 6. So it's good to see Amat. Amat has been a stud. Amat factored heavily in his team's win, in the Archers win the other night, where the Archers were down 6-3. I think at one point, and then Amat factored to get it back tied 6-6. Amat went 1-2, or maybe it was to get it to 7-6 and they took the lead. Amat was 1-2 over that 4-point swing. So Amat factoring at big times. He had that sick behind the back feed to Schreiber, where he kind of come up the left from X and then see Schreiber cutting down. So he kind of turns his head and maybe even shades like he's going to go back right, and then just stick Schreiber behind the back, and Schreiber quick sticked it. So everyone said, I think in the telecast, they talked about how, hey, we're all curious how that was going to look. And that was a beautiful goal. Very sick feed out of Amat. And I often wonder how much of that is, I can just ding you right in the bread basket as you're coming down behind the back, or how much of it is just kind of getting lucky. I threw a boatload of behind the back shots over my career downfield and stuck a bunch of them. And I often marveled at where some of them ended up and how some of them would stick corners and how some of them would get past goalies. And it would make it look like I intended on doing that, when you almost never do. You're just kind of like, oh, I'm going to stick that behind the back now. And the ball goes where it goes. So I actually had a pretty good shooting percentage from behind the back. And I had a game in a club tournament in Buffalo, when I was playing club ball for BU, and I think we were playing Buffalo, and I had a game where I had 4 goals. Every single one of them were behind the back. I stuck a crossbody behind the back. I stuck a behind the back on a man up from like 10 yards. I stuck a fake high, put it low behind the back, and then I just stuck a regular one on a fast break. So to this day, I still remember that game, because, when you score 4 goals and every single one of them are hot dogging it behind the back, it's pretty funny. It wasn't really hot dogging it, though. They were good times, as they say, in terms of it was a good time to take it. Defensively, Cade Van Raphorst, he's got 6 caused turnovers, leading the league so far, 8 GBs. Garrett Epple, our boy, 5 caused turnovers and a really crazy penalty on the Undertaker, Matt Gaudet. Matt McMahon playing tough. Jack Rowlett playing tough. Just trying to mention some guys here. Face-off right now. We have a battle at the top of the face-off game here between Joseph Nardella Esquire. I just said that because seeing his full name, Joseph Nardella, sounded funny instead of Joe Nardella. And then Connor Farrell. They're both sitting at the top, 71%. Now, Farrell, in fairness, has taken more than twice the draws that Nardella has, so I'll give that tie in terms of face-off percentage to Farrell. But Nardella and Farrell both sitting at the top at 71%. And then Stephen Kelly behind them with 56. Trevor Baptiste all the way down at 53%. He's 24 of 45. So he's taken as many draws as Farrell. He just has not handled them as well up to this point. We've got some LSM stats here. John Sexton, 6 caused turnovers. Michael Earhart is an absolute beast and an animal. He's 4 and 7, 4 caused turnovers, 7 ground balls. Craig Schick. I'm trying to figure out what I hear when I hear his name. It's just not sounding right here. Hugh Krantz rocking, although he's one caused turnover, 4 ground balls. And then the rookies. We have this rookie battle here. Costabile, he's 7 points. He's sitting right below Amat. Amat at 8 points overall, 4 goals, 4 assists. Costabile, 7 points, 4 goals, 1 assist, and 1 2-point goal. And then what else we got here? So that's the rookies. Gaudet, for all that chirping he's been doing, 1 goal, off 5 shots. So I'm not sure that's chirp worthy, but here we are. Here's what he's doing. Tonight, and hey, man, how did you guys all feel about that late game last night? That's something I'm curious about. I admittedly could not make it through it. I got to halftime. I was tired as hell, and I ended up I just knew that I wanted to get up super early this morning and record this. So I made it to halftime, and then I literally watched the rest of the game, fast forwarding here and there between the toilet and coffee before I sat down here to record this. So how did you guys all feel about that late face-off? Because it was a little late for me. Tonight's game, they're facing off at 7, and then we have an even later face-off next week at 9:30. Or wait. Yeah, Thursday's game. Oh, wait, we have 2 games tonight. Tonight we have a 7 o'clock game, Atlas against the Whip Snakes. That's going to be a good one. And we have the 9:30 nightcap again, Archers against the Chrome. So that will be fun. Before we get into Friday night's action, starting out with the Chaos taking on the Whip Snakes. So tonight, first game, Atlas, Whip Snakes. Second game at 9:30, Archers, Chrome. One's on the 7 o'clock's on NBC Sports Network, and the late night game is on NBC Sports Gold. So that'll be good. So that's it. Let me know what you thought about the late game. Let me know what you think about Gaudet getting jacked up by Garrett Epple. I'm for it in the sense of the herd is going to end up kind of handling their business and making sure that undesirable things don't go down. I'm also for the fact that he did get suspended at least a game. I think that was called for. He might have been able to get 2 out of it, and I would have still been behind it. Some of the guys calling for 3, I think that's a little severe. But I don't discount their opinion. I mean, it's a valid thing to say. I'm not trying to say they're wrong. It's just like, I'm thinking 1 or 2 given the situation was fine. So that's it. I'm going to be back this weekend here as we have more games to watch, and we'll just keep rambling on about lacrosse. We're working on nailing down a couple of guests, guys to talk to a little bit more about it. I'm going to try to hook up with the guys from Pro Lacrosse Talk. We've been talking about it back and forth and just haven't been able to make anything transpire. So maybe we can get that done, as well as I'm working on, hey, Queener, call me Queener. For anybody who hasn't seen what Bryce Queener is doing yet, Bryce Queener has started putting out content similar to mine, just sitting in front of a camera and rambling, and he has been doing an excellent job. So if you're not already following him or friends with him on Facebook, Instagram, or any of the other platforms he's putting stuff up on, hit him up too, because Queener's doing a great job. I always do like a what am I listening to, and right now Queener legitimately is the main guy, just because there's not a lot of guys that just sit here and ramble about the sport like this. There's a lot of podcasts out there, but not a lot of content outside of, I like the Crease Dive is my other favorite lacrosse specific podcast. So give Queener a look, give the Crease Dive guys a look. That's the Barstool Lacrosse podcast. They do an excellent job of just kind of talking to you all and rambling about lacrosse. So that is it. As always, thank you for watching, listening. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can go to laxfactor.com, get swag and all that crap. And if you want to listen to the audio only version, go to anchor.fm/LaxFactor. And Hoost is out.